Please welcome our long jump silver medalist, two-time TEDx speaker, and homemade waffle lover, whose artificial leg is now featured in the Olympic and Paralympic Museum, Mr. John Register. All right. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, give it up for Jamie. Together like this for our community is awesome, and we get a chance to come together, so thank you, Jamie, for that. Environment, atmosphere, and a lesson from an overhead bin. Environment, atmosphere, and a lesson from an overhead bin. I was at NASA doing a program, kind of auditing a class. It's an amazing program. We were in this huge tank where the astronauts will practice their maneuvers under the water at a submerged International Space Station replica that's down there before they go up into space. And then they do the actual maneuvers right there that they practiced. And I was thinking about that on the bus ride back over to the kind of main campus. And I said, how fascinating that our bodies are not meant to operate underwater. When we're submerged, we can't breathe, right? We can't pull the oxygen out of the water into our bodies. Same thing in space. We go into that environment and we cannot survive there. But yet when the astronauts have this suit on, they actually take their atmosphere into their environment. And I began to think, what's like that in society? What's like that in our everyday lives? When we show up and we just get so out of sorts with each other. We just had a very contested political season. We've had the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. We've had COVID-19 hit. And a lot of us went into this environment without oxygen. So I'm sitting in a gate waiting area in the Washington Dulles International Airport. I've just made the Paralympic team. I'm going down to Atlanta, Georgia to compete in the swimming event. Now, the Paralympic Games are games for athletes with physical disabilities and visual impairments. Most people get it confused with Special Olympics, which is for cognitive disabilities. It's a total different, separate group. These games are the parallel games to the Olympic Games. So I'm sitting there with 60 of my new Paralympic teammates, and 27 months earlier, I was trying to make an Olympic team. So I wanted to be on the Olympic team, not this Paralympic team. And as I'm sitting there in this waiting area, I'm looking at all my teammates, these 60 people on these various teams that are going down to Atlanta, and some are on the wheelchair basketball team, the swim team, the track and field team, and all I could see were people with disabilities, people who are blind, people who had cerebral palsy, right? People who were using wheelchairs, paraplegics, quadriplegics, people of lower and short stature, and amputees like myself. And I thought, what is the value and the benefit of being on this team? In fact, I'm sitting next to a gentleman. He's in a beautiful three-piece Armani suit, got gator skin shoes on, pulling a Louis Vuitton bag, and he's talking so loud on his cell phone that I just want to reach out and touch him. Give my hands to myself. What's the value? What's the benefit of being on this team? The gate agent, she gets up to the lectern with her little self, and she says, ladies and gentlemen, flight number 300 is now ready for passenger boarding. Will everyone who needs a little bit more time and assistance please get up board the aircraft at this time? So 60 of my Paralympic teammates and I got up and started going down the jet bridge, and I said, benefit number one. That's a perk. So I take my seat, 17F, I like the window seat, and I'm watching this amazing spectacle of all my teammates coming on board the aircraft. And those people who had cerebral palsy, they're using the backs of the chairs, ambulating to their seats. Those who are blind, they're being led by the teammate that's in front of them, being guided to their seats. Those who are in wheelchairs, being guided on in aisle chairs. I'm saying, this is fascinating. I've never seen this before. And then I see Tree. Tree's on a wheelchair basketball team. Tree is a bilateral amputee, which means that he's standing on those stilt legs at 6 feet 8 inches tall. But I get it. Tree can be a tree at 6'8" or a stump at 4'3", depending upon which legs he picks out of his closet in the morning time. So he's got those stilt legs on. He sits down in seat 7C, pops his artificial legs off, hands them to the flight attendant, who then places those legs in the overhead bin. But I got it. Benefit number 2, more leg room. So I'm there watching this whole spectacle, and the flight attendant comes and says to Tree, can I help you with anything else? You need more time and attention or assistance? Can I help you? And Tree says, no, ma'am, I'm good. And off then she walks back through the red curtains to bring all the tabs on board the aircraft. Tabs, temporarily able-bodied individuals, tabs. So most of you all out there, you'll be welcomed into our club at one point in time in your life. Get ready for it. It's a fun club. So she goes out, Tree now being 4'3", he jumps up into a seat, takes his long basketball arms, hoists himself up to the overhead bin. He climbs in, lays prone next to his legs, closes the bin door. 17F. I catch eyes with Amy, my swim teammate. Amy puts her head down, turns beet red, twiddles her thumbs like they have done this 1,000 times before. I'm on the edge of my seat. Who's going to sit in that 7th row? And as the tabs are coming on, they're going to the back of the plane, they're filing out side to side. We finally have our winner, Mr. Armani suit, still pulling his Louis Vuitton bag, still talking loud on that cell phone, stops at the 7th row, screams out because he has a middle seat. His attaché will not fit underneath the seat back pocket in front of him, so he must go to the overhead bin where our friend Tree has been lying prone for the last 5 minutes. And when he goes to lift that latch, don't get ahead of me, man. He goes to lift that latch, boom, out Tree pops, jump just like you did, ma'am. Armani does a Carl Lewis long jump, 7th row back to the 17th row I'm at, slips on those gator skin shoes. I catch eyes back over with Amy. Amy says, oh, that's pretty good, John. Last guy only made to row number 10. That is a new world record. So as I am back there just cracking up and laughing, Armani goes back up to the 7th row with all his papers in his hand, his bag, that startled look on his face. And Tree has his hand on his chin, his little nubby leg things are crossed, and he says, I'm sorry, sir, but this overhead bin space has been filled. So I am just in hysterics, laughing at what I've just seen. I've never seen anything like this before. And because of that, I begin to think about my attitude, the environment I was in just 10 minutes earlier when I wanted to be on the Olympic team and not the Paralympic team. It looked like I was going to have a lot more fun on the Paralympic team than I ever was going to have on the Olympic team. And the third most important, valuable lesson that I was learning in that moment was that Tree was showing up as his full, authentic self into this environment despite how I was showing up for him. How many times as leaders do we do this? That we are in this position of kind of tolerating the environment that we're in, not taking our oxygen. I will tolerate you as long as it's on my terms and my conditions. If it's not, I'm not intolerant. I just dismiss you. I'm not going to even pay any attention to you. You're not worth my time. And that's where I was at. My oxygen was gone in that moment to even think that these people, those individuals, those people over there were different than me. And we say it all the time in our vernaculars, in our barbershop, in our beauty shop, in our church settings, and wherever we are, we begin to group ourselves together, and as we're getting closer and closer together, our oxygen is leaving. Tree was showing me how to bring oxygen into the environment. A double-leg amputee showing up, playing wheelchair basketball in the Hall of Fame, living life to the highest extent, scaring the crap out of people out of overhead bins. And I wanted that. I wanted to show up in that way in my life. And how dare I devalue my teammate? So as we're going through this today, think about that. This mindset is really the atmosphere that we're trying to get. If we can shift our mindset, and we hear mindset thrown out around a lot, But this mindset is really the trigger. It's really the key, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this and think about some of the questions that you might have as we go through this quick little presentation today, and we'll answer it. If we don't get it today, I'll give you my email address, and we can have a further conversation. We can do a Zoom call, and we'll talk about these environments that we have, right? This is how you can connect with me. If you want to take a photo of that slide right there real quick, and you can do a QR code, and we can connect on LinkedIn. It's probably the fastest way. So the deal is this. Jamie, let me get this chair right. I'm going to get the chair. Let's bring this chair up here real quick. We get this environment. Thank you so much, sir. We get this environment. We'll put it right in the station. Thank you. We get this environment by shifting the way that we think about things. How can we look at it from a different perspective? Not just a binary choice, right? Most of us think that it's either a this or that. There's so much in between, but we just don't think about it hard enough or long enough for it to come to us, to sit with it, to be silent in the moment. We're often always pushing so hard and trying to lead teams that we don't sit silent with our own thoughts first before we actually move out. You will find that all my stories actually happen in airports. I'm going to tell you another story in a second here. But a lot of people talk about, especially when COVID hit, the new normal. How many are fed up with that term? Okay, right. I've been using the term for 20 years. I was welcoming all y'all into my world. And here's what I look at the new normal. The new normal often, if you look on your app that you have there, there's a little way that you can kind of fill in the blank. I'm going to give you some terms you can start filling out. The new normal, as most people use it, is not a destination. And we hear it framed as a destination like, I can't wait till things get back to normal. I guess this is our new normal. That's a cop-out. Because how many of us, when we're thinking about that new normal kind of phrasing, what is it that we're really saying? When COVID hit, we all were saying, oh my gosh, times are so uncertain now. I feel so disjointed. Where's the nearest toilet paper? It was all these things that we were saying in our minds. That last part was a joke. Y'all should have laughed at it. It was pretty good. My question is, if things are uncertain when COVID hit in March of 2020, and it caused us to shift and pivot and work hard and try to keep our teams together, why weren't we doing that before? Why weren't we doing that before? Were we coasting? Were we just in our own privilege and just moving out and just, I got my thing, I'm traveling all the time, I'm traveling my 150,000 miles a year on United Airlines? Why wasn't I working that hard before if it's uncertain? So the new means no prior point of reference. No prior point of reference. Who's been through COVID before? Who's been through a total global shutdown before? No one. So why then are we trying to use things that we have never done before to try to accentuate what's going on in the now? New is no prior point of reference. Normal then is the everyday typical occurrence of a thought or an action. It's the rituals we put in place. Rituals lead to rhythms. Rhythms elevate us to a rise. If we put those things in place and we know these things are happening, we can wade through, because some people in companies have seen disaster. When's my next PPP coming? I gotta have my PPP in order to survive. Some people are saying, I ain't waiting for that. I'm gonna elevate. I'm gonna shift. Some companies were saying, I'm gonna lay people off because we gotta tighten the reins. Others were saying, I need to hire because I gotta get other people on board. And guess what happens when you hire? People say, well, my job's not going away, so now I can be more productive in my mind to help the company grow, to get through the tough times faster. Typical occurrence of a thought or an action. What actions did we do in that moment? So the new normal is not a destination at all. The new normal is only a plateau by which we grow. We grow from these experiences. We grow in the resilience. We grow and exercise the resilience muscle. If we only had a small resilience muscle when COVID hit, when George Floyd hit, When the presidential election hit, then our oxygen was gone. We were more likely to talk to our friends about things that we couldn't control instead of turning it on ourselves and saying, why am I asking these questions or responding in this way? And when we turn it on ourselves, it's a great place to start because we get back to the point of embarkation. So I'm sitting in another gate area in the San Francisco International Airport. I am reading a USA Today newspaper. I'm wearing shorts, which has exposed my artificial leg. In earshot from me, 2 boys about 5 and 7 years of age. They're talking to their mother, their matriarch, about a new discovery they have just made. Mommy, look at that man's leg. See that man's leg over there? Look at that man's leg. There goes Robot Man. So I chuckled. But I went back to reading my USA Today newspaper. Then out of the earshot, there began to be this murmuring of all these people in the gate waiting area. They started having this outer speak conversation, which really should have remained inner speak conversations, about the 2 boys, 5 and 7, who just discovered Robot Man. Now, as a non-rhetorical question, which means audience participation, what do you think they were saying about the 2 boys who just discovered me? Shouldn't say that, right? What else? What else? What do you got? Throw it out there. Yell it. Rude. Absolutely. That was rude. You should know better. Bad mother. All these things. I said, wow, that's interesting. But I went back to reading my USA Today newspaper. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see the woman. She gets up. She starts walking over in my direction. And I think with these 2 boys and stuff, she's going to take the advice of all the inner speak, outer speak folks and do like this old song says and just walk on by. But no, she stops. She leans in and says, excuse me, sir. My children, they're absolutely fascinated by your artificial leg. Looks like you've overcome so much adversity. You are such an inspiration. Would you please tell them what happened? No one has ever come to me in such a public setting. I mean, I've been asked a question before, but with everybody in the gate waiting area listening in loud enough to hear. So I was like, wow. And so in this space between her question and my response, I was like, why does she think have overcome so much adversity? I could have just been born like this. And why does she think I'm such an inspiration? I mean, I could be an axe murderer. I'm not. Yet. And then why was everybody else that had that outer speak conversation that should have remained inner speak conversation, why were they all now leaning in? And in the space between her question and my response, I found my answer. I did not overcome adversity. See, 6.5 years earlier, on May 24th, 1994, I was lying on a hospital bed. My wife, Alice, was holding on to my left hand. My parents were on the opposite side of the bed. My little son, John Jr., 5.5 years old at the time, was at the foot of the bed. And the pain was unbearable. Dr. Randy Mullins, he walks into the room. He's got a white lab coat on. He's got a stethoscope around his neck, clipboard in his hand. He says, Mr. Register, you got a tough choice to make. You can either keep your leg, use a walker or a wheelchair for the rest of your life, or I can amputate your leg. You can use a prosthesis for the rest of your life. What kind of choice is that? You see, 7 days earlier, on May 17th, 1994, I am on top of the world. I have had the accolades of a 4-time track and field All-American, went to 2 Olympic trials, went to the SISM Games, which is the World Military Championships, won 9 medals, All-Army track and field competition. I have just run the 400-meter hurdles in under 50 seconds. USA Track and Field News has just picked me to be one of the 3 Americans to represent Team USA at the Olympic Games in 1996. Edwin Moses, the great Edwin Moses said, John, you're on the same trajectory I was going down to trying to run this race in under 48 seconds. I was on top. It was great. But the wind was blowing really hard in Hays, Kansas. And if you don't know anything about the 400-meter hurdles, it's the greatest race in track and field, is you have a 40-meter run to the first hurdle, a 45-meter run to the first hurdle. You have 35 meters in between each subsequent hurdles, over 10 barriers. And then the last runoff is 40 meters to the end. Works out to 400 meters. I'm running and approaching each one of these hurdles with my right leg leading at the speed of 8.6 meters per second, which equates to what? Fast is the right answer, is absolutely right. It's about 19 miles an hour. And as I'm running these hurdles, I said the wind was blowing hard. I'm having troubles with my steps. So I want to set my race up with the right leg leading down the back stretch. That was just kind of my dominant leg of the two. But I can take the hurdle with left leg, the right leg, it really didn't matter. But with the wind blowing, I'm getting the right leg coming up and the left leg coming up. And the left leg coming up and the right leg coming up. And sometimes in hurdles, as in life, you just want things to stay the same. So I go on with my one last proverbial pass. I jump on the blocks, 21 steps to the first hurdle, right leg leading. Bam, I'm on. Second hurdle approaches, 13 steps, I'm on again. And then I felt that Kansas wind push against me. But I pushed back against that strong Kansas wind. I said, I'm going to make it. I'm going to get that 13 steps. But I realized about 6, 7 steps out, I'm going to be short. I'll have to take it with the left leg again and go back and kind of reset the race. So off the right leg, I go across the hurdle with my left leg, hit the ground, anticipating to run out, and I hear, and my body sails and twists in the air, and I see my left shin pass in front of my face. My shoulders hit the ground, and I bounced to a halt. Now, I did a quick once on my body. My shoulders are okay. My waist is okay. When I saw my knee, the patella had risen 3 inches up my femur bone, and my left leg was now canted across my right leg with my foot touching the black surface of the track. Let me pause the story right there and step off the track just for a second. Because a sharp lieutenant named Michelle Dickens, she took 9 pictures that day. And I want to show you the picture of that injury. But if you're a little bit squeamish after having Chick-fil-A lunch, you may want to turn your eyes away for just a few seconds, and or you can do like the last group and just do that. Right? I'll explain what's going on in this photograph here. You see my foot's on the black surface of the track. If you come up the shin bone, you'll see the dislocation where the head of the femur is trying to push out from the side. The discoloration is where my tibia is at that point. My head is on the bottom, underneath that kind of all rights reserved sign there. And my friend Dino has his head on my head. Ben, who I'm supposed to go to officer candidate school, is right with the head on Dino's head. And then Roz, who's just kind of coming into frame on the right side of the picture, is holding on to my hand. And I absolutely have no idea whose ashy legs those are up in the top corner there. So let's step back onto the track. The only thing I could think about at that time was just get up. Just push yourself up, John. Come on, just get yourself up. You can do it. Just push yourself up. Get up. You can do it. Push yourself. Oh, God. And then 90 minutes later, as my teammates were holding me and consoling me, but 90 minutes later, as they were singing songs and hymns to keep me calm, 90 minutes later, the ambulance came. And I was put in the back and whisked off to Hayes Medical Center, where another doctor in a white lab coat took one look at me, took one look at my leg, and said, Mr. Register, you got a bit of a problem. I'm going to have to fix that. So he bored down on that crooked leg. We're going to do this on 3. 1, my leg ballooned up, passed out. I don't remember too much about the next moments of my life at that time, the next days, actually. I don't remember the medevac from Hayes to Wichita. I don't remember when my wife arrived. I don't remember a lot of the surgeries that happened. I don't remember my mom and dad got their son. All I remember was Alice holding on to my left hand, my parents on the opposite side of the bed, little John Jr. at the foot, and Dr. Mullen saying, you got a tough choice to make. And it was the pain that spoke first, because my male deductive reasoning said, get rid of the leg, get rid of the pain. And I said to the doc, I know my leg has to be amputated. And he immediately went into action. And after the surgery, I woke up at 11 o'clock at night in more pain than my male deductive reasoning had reasoned. And I just wanted something to drop it, to get rid of it. And so I saw the little morphine drip button on the side, so I decided I'm going to roll over and press the button, but I was too weak to get over, and I was just short to get that button to drop. But I could see the nurse's aid station. They were right outside my door. I'll just call out to them. However, the tubes that had been down my throat, it made the sound too inaudible to get their attention. So there I lay in that bed for the next 8 hours with my dangerous thoughts, with the oxygen leaving me. Who am I now? What's my identity? Is my wife going to stick around? Is my son still going to see me as his father? Do I still have a job in the Army? Can I support my family? I mean, my Olympic dreams are over. At 8 o'clock, Dr. Randy Mullins comes into the room, sees I've done a 180-degree shift. He immediately calls my wife, Alice, who's over at the hotel, trying to manage herself, me, John Jr., her mother-in-law. And she just found out 7 o'clock that morning, before she coming over to the hospital just to sit. She should have been called early the night before, but no one called her because no one knew I was awake. She'd just been called by her nursing facility that she was working for in West Memphis, Arkansas. And because she was gone for so long caring about me, they've just fired her from the job. And with all that on her mind, she comes over, takes them 45 minutes to get me out of that bed, into a wheelchair, wheeled out to an inaccessible playground where I'm parked to watch my son and my wife playing the swings. And I couldn't push myself out of that chair. It's the first time I felt devalued, dejected, disabled. I lost it, started crying uncontrollably. And through the heaves and sobs, Alice sees me struggling. She comes running over and says, "What is going on? What's wrong?" And I began to articulate to her all my fears I had the night before. And then she said the words that stopped my downward spiral. She said, "You know what, John? We're going to get through this together. It's just our new normal. It's just our new normal." And through me wiping the tears away and trying to think about what does that even mean, I see John Jr., he jumps off the swing, hits the ground with those little 5.5-year-old legs. He starts running over to us. "Hey, Dad, you see my big jump? You see my big jump, Dad?" And jumps in between Alice and myself. And in that moment, I realized in those 20 yards, he had just validated me as his father. And he had just created his new normal. And that's exactly what I had to do. I had to create my new normal. So in the space between her question and my response, I found my answer. I didn't overcome the adversity. So as you're listening to that story, let's stick a pin and pause right there. What is it that you believe I overcame? Non-rhetorical question, once again. That means we can speak. You can breathe now, right? Oh, what's going to happen? Breathe. It's okay. Get your breath, get your oxygen back, get your atmosphere back. What do you think it was I overcame? Just yell something out. Perspective is one. Yeah. What else? Old expectations. What'd you say over here? Fear. Yeah, fear. What else? Doubt. Did I hear doubt? Yeah, doubt. Was what I was experiencing. It was fear. A lot of it was fear. I think all of us, we get fears. We get in these moments, we turn inward to ourselves, try to protect us. So fear was showing up as, is my wife going to stay with me? Is my son going to still see me as his father? Will I still have a job in the military? All this is about protecting me. Secondly was fears of others, other people believing for me what I could or could not do, which was based upon what they believed they could or could not do if they were in my situation. Third, societal. Who was I listening to society that was dictating to me and in my head to make me even think that my wife would leave or my son wouldn't see me as his dad, or that the Army would kick me out? Who was in my head to even say that? Was it when I watch a Disney movie and I see Peter Pan, Captain Hook? Captain Hook's the villain. He's got his arm bit off by TikTok, the crocodile. He wears a hook, a claw. He's dark, he's mysterious, he's scary. But wait a minute, I'm an amputee. Is that why people in the gate waiting area will tell kids, shut up, it's impolite to stare, go away? Those people are different. We don't want to hang around them. Let's go down a different aisle in the grocery store. We do it all the time. We associate with the things that are coming into society. We never check them. It's not a checks and balance. We're all in our own little bubbles. And it manifests itself at that fear level. So then how do we then turn away from it? How do we get out of it? Well, if you look at this chart right here, right, we're talking about the individuals, the others, and the culture. I think we have to ask ourselves the question, where are we in one of these kind of three buckets? We're going to put them in three buckets right here. This individual, these others, and culture. So the first thing I think we believe, we all live in Colorado, I assume, right? Anybody heard of a false summit? I think rebuilding is a false summit. Because had I overcome the amputation of my left leg, I'd have my leg back. I don't get that back. I don't get back yesterday. I don't get back pre-COVID. It's a false summit, but yet we're trying to build on that false summit. The question I ask then is, what is it that you anticipate getting back that is now holding you back from your new normal mindset? Secondly, redefine. So now I'm trying to redefine myself. Who am I going to show up as? Show up as the old John? Is there a new John that's coming up? I don't know. Am I going to listen to the individuals, the others, and the cultural fears? Is that who's going to direct me to show up as myself? Or is there something greater? Is there something deeper in who I am? And that's why this is such a very personal question. When we work with businesses, we work with teams to make sure that before we start solving problems, we got to look at us first. What am I bringing to the table? And we could talk about Washington, D.C. all we want to, but politics is local. What's going on in my neighborhood? Who am I electing to keep my community center open? We got to get down to the basics and where these things are actually coming from, and that redefining moment is who we're going to show up as. What happens then is we have to begin to think, what is it I'm going to release? What is it I'm going to let go of in my fears? What am I going to amputate to embrace this new normal mindset? It's a very tough place to be because we have the ears of the individuals, others, and culture driving us. But do we have the courage to jump? The jump is a jump. No one can do it for you. I'm on a ropes course 50 feet off the ground, harnessed in on an amputee ropes course, and I got these little tykes, little kids with amputations, some double-legged, some with the arm gone, and they're all going, "Come on, Mr. Register, you can do it," as they fly right by me. And they got these 5 discs, 50 feet off the ground. And I make disc number 1 because I can make it. It's a good jump. I got that one. Disc number 2, I got that one too. All right. Disc number 3, a little bit too far. And I'm paralyzed. I'm stuck up there. And as they finish the course and they're all the way down on the bottom, they're cheering me on. "You can do it. Let's go, Mr. Register. You got it. You can do it. Come on, counselor. Come on, coach. You got it." And I'm up there for 20 minutes trying to make this jump. They can encourage me all they want to, but I'm going to make one of 2 decisions. I'm going to either turn back, go back from the way I came, or I'm going to make that jump. There's no other way else down. I got to do one of 2 things. If I turn back, I now then have to face myself and why I did not have the courage to make the jump. And it shows up as me justifying to myself to make me feel good about the decision I could not make, to have the courage to move forward. And we see it come out all the time. I begin to justify every single thing around me to make myself look good in the moment. "Oh, I could have done it, but I had that Chick-fil-A today and it's getting in my stomach. I just want to come on down, We make all these excuses, and excuses are monuments of nothingness. They build bridges to nowhere, and people who use these tools of incompetence are masters of nothing. But if I make the jump, if I release, if I go, if I let go of it, because the jump is a jump, then I become in that final box. And here's the brilliance of all of this, right? Because in that, it's not a rebuild at all, it's a rebirth. I have a new foundation, I have a new platform. I begin to elevate on this new platform. And I can't run really fast, I have to learn it. A lot of folks were talking about when the big executive CEOs were stepping in it all over the place with George Floyd, when George Floyd was murdered. No one wanted to talk about both sides of the equation. They were saying, "Oh, it's about the protesters. No, it's about the looters. Or it's about all this other stuff." No one wanted to talk about a black man being killed by a police officer. How come that's so hard to talk about? It's because our oxygen is taken away from everybody on the individuals, others, and culture side. What was my culture? That's why it's hard to talk about. And it's only hard to talk about if it's the person that's hard to talk about. We have all these things we do in our businesses and our companies. We have these difficult conversations. We have classes and courses by our HR teams to have difficult conversations, but this one is too tough. I don't buy it. Dig in, go, jump. Amputate it, amputate the fear. Why are you fearful? Jump into it. When you're on that side, this rebirth side, I had to learn how to manipulate a wheelchair to get to my prosthetic appointments. I had to learn how to walk inside the parallel bars with a new prosthetic leg. I had to get on a 4-bar walker to walk around the hospital to get my balance. Then to crutches, then to a cane, and then free walking. And then I could start running, and then jump and run. It took 6 years to do that. And we want to just have a conversation on race and say, let me just check the box. I got this. I'm not sure what the whole big deal is about. No one wants to go deep into this conversation and topics. Do we start at George Floyd? Do we go all the way back to 400 years before? I don't even start there. Let's go back to the continent. Why do we separate Egypt out of Africa all the time? Deep conversations we don't want to have, but yet they're necessary to know who we are, to bring oxygen back into our environment. When I get strong enough, I become resolved. I'm resolute in who I am. I know exactly who I am. And no more am I going to listen to the others and the naysayers and the culture. I'm strong enough to say to them, you need to catch up to where I am. And that equals our freedom, our liberation. And that freedom and liberation brings us into a moment of self-identification, of discovery. I know who I am, and it's not for us. It's to go back and actually help build a pathway from others that are in their fears through their redefining moments to liberate them. But make no mistake, that redefining moment is the most critical piece, because people won't make the jump because of who they're associated with and the culture they've been brought up in. And if they go against that, they're going to be ostracized, and because other folks will not have the courage to go with them when they know that it's right. To him that knows to do right and does not do it, to him that is sin. So we look at resilience. So how many hurdles in a hurdle race? 10, yes. How many letters in the word resilience? Who said 11? You put an S on the end of that? I like this because we see, before we start out, I said we have to think about the silence. We hear our own voice first. And embedded in the word resilience is the word silence. Can we hear our own voice first before we move out? So in the space between her question and my response, I found my answer. I did not overcome the adversity. So she says, so what happened next? I said, I'm so glad you asked. I started swimming for physical therapy. And I got so fast in the water that I somehow fluked up, messed up, and actually made the Paralympic swim team. And I went down to Atlanta, Georgia, and I swam in the games, but I saw athletes with disabilities and artificial legs running on artificial limbs, and I had a leg made for running. And 4 years later, I went to Sydney, Australia.
Let's take a look at the men's long jump F42 final starting list, and Lucas Christen from Switzerland is the dominant one in this field. He holds both the world and Paralympic record in this event. Victor Goriansen from Sweden is up now, ready for his third attempt. It's not a bad effort. He's pretty satisfied with it. 4.89. It's actually a season best for the Swede. Here's the man to beat. He is the world record holder, jumping 5.43 in 98 in Birmingham. Well, he's pleased the crowd. He's happy with that one. And so he should be. He's smashed his world mark with 5.57, a new world mark. Well, the pressure's really on now for John Register from the USA. 5.57, the mark to beat. Nice lead up, but it's short. He's not able to take the gold from Christen, but he does move into second spot. So here are the results of the men's long jump final. Gold to Christen, silver to Register, and Goriansen home with the bronze.
Every time I see that, oh, thank you. Every time I see that video, I do think I'm going to win the gold medal, so just saying. A reporter asked me on the elevator, after I got off the elevator coming down for the medal ceremony, she had seen me run at Arkansas And she asked me, she said, John, I saw you run in Arkansas. I saw you run against Michael Johnson. You jumped exhibition against Carl Lewis. Do you think with artificial limb technology that you could do that again? Run against those gentlemen? I said, oh, no. And then I said, however, maybe your question should be, God forbid if Carl Lewis or Michael Johnson lost a limb, could they run as fast or jump as far as I do? Right? Because that's a different question. It means that I can't go back to what you think your box of me is. I have transitioned now. And my reality is I am less likely to grow a leg back than one of those two gentlemen are to lose one. And after they lose it, could they have the intestinal fortitude and the mindset to get back and get their oxygen back to actually compete in the Paralympic Games? Or would they think that it's beneath them like I was in the gate waiting area in the airport? Those are the things that we have. So I think we have maybe 5 minutes left here. Or
That's right.
we can just go into
Yeah.
some cute questions and opinions.
you,
I have
John.
no answers. And then I got to wrap up. I'll wrap it up.
We've got enough time for maybe a question or two. Anybody got a question for John? Maybe a comment around your one thing that you took away from today. There we go, right up there.
Why did it take 90 minutes for the ambulance to get there?
That is the question of the hour. I don't know. And even when I was told that years later, because I didn't know, I was a friend of mine, Sergeant Charles Swindell, who now works in the Pentagon. He had these pictures that Michelle gave to him, and we were sitting in the Pentagon, the cafeteria, and he was begging me to open the pictures up, and I wouldn't do it. Right? And he said, yeah, it did take 90 minutes for the ambulance to get there. And I said, what? But I didn't know that, because on the report, it wasn't. It was a shorter time. But he said, no, it was that time. It could have been, Hayes is not the biggest place in the world. So if there were a couple of accidents out there, maybe I was just next on the list. I don't know. But it's not going to change my reality today. So again, I try to do my best to try to stay in that new. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard to do, but I try to stay in that new and not focus on that, what might have been, because I can't change those outcomes. But I will try to take what I'm thinking about, if I allow myself there, and flip it and try to forecast it out 30 years. So if I knew 30 years from now what I am knowing now, right? If I can forecast it out, what changes what I make in my life now to impact that 30 years, right? That's the way I try to flip it. And I think those are really good mental exercises to kind of go through. Very good, yeah.
Thank you, John.
For sure.
Through it all, what's your faith journey and relationship with God? What's that been like through your whole life?
Yeah, so my dad's a minister, which doesn't really mean anything. It means I was a PK. So I had faith, church, Christianity my entire life. But it really didn't get real to me until I graduated college, when I went into the military, and I began to see the connections it had and prayers that were actually expanding in my life. And I began going deeper in that. So by the time the injury happened, I think I made the switch so fast was because I knew something greater was there for me, but not knowing what that was. Not absolved from the pain, not absolved from the emotional state that I was in, that I had lost, but that I could make this turn. And I'm not saying that I didn't get low in my life at all because of faith. I think it was, and I think it was the opposite. I got really low. I didn't question God, but I said, kind of why not? At the same time saying, no, this really sucks. And it was on actually June 17th that I was in my lowest moment of my life. Anybody remember it happened on June 17th, 1994? Exactly 1 month after my injury. June 17th. Y'all remember this. On the I-5 freeway, O.J. Simpson, absolutely. All I had to say is I-5, right? And some of y'all younger folks, O.J. Simpson was a football player. And he was in the back seat, and they were reading the letter about the suicide note, right? And in the most pain I was in, I said, you know what? Even if it gets worse than this double, I'm never going to check out. There's too much that I don't know that's supposed to be coming. And I got to stay in it. And that's really the focal point, right? And this kind of you see the whole presentation really goes from this mindset of these fears that we have. What's next? Why am I here? What's my, I think it was Mark Twain that said, They're two most important days of our life, the day we were born, the day that we find out why. Right? So now we go through this process and we get this rebirth, right? We see that we have another pathway. Doesn't mean that we weren't the same person over here, but now we just have this newness of life. And that's what I think really liberates us, that mindset that I want more people to enjoy and experience this. Yeah.
One more time for John Register. Thank you.
I got to finish, man. I'm not done. We got 1 minute, right? Dang it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me get some quick insights. Okay, quick insights. The woman, right? So here, her and the 2 kids. Where are they now? I don't know. But she had the most courage in that room that day because she took a risk with all the naysayers to come over, right? She took the risk. The second one is my teammates. I don't see this picture the same way anymore. I see the support system. So who's your support system that you have in your lowest moments in life? The third one is if you go to amputatefear.com, I think it's there. I have to ask my team. But I'll give you that pathway from fear to freedom. And you can either look at it for yourself or where you think that you are on it, or you can give it to a friend, associate, to see where they are on it. And that fear to freedom pathway, amputatefear.com, just go there. And I believe it's still there. If it's not, I'll have it up by tonight. And then we have, I wrote this book for leaders called 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. It's $3 on Amazon, I think, or Kindle. And it's 10 of my stories that I really don't tell to inspire 10 of your own stories so that when you have moments of crisis and things that shift and your oxygen leaves the room, you have stories that you can bring into your team to help you. So 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader. And then I'm going to do a live. If you know anybody that wants, I'm going to do a LinkedIn, a Zoom live tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, morning, 10 to 11:30 Mountain Time. And then finally, I'm going to show you where they are now. So we got 32 years of marriage, my wife and I. Yay, give a clap. Yes, absolutely. She's awesome. That's my son. He yesterday just turned 32 years old, so that's great. He's awesome. And we have Ashley. So Ashley came afterwards, after the injury. She's never known me with 2 legs. So Ashley's here. Remember my fears I had in the hospital? Ashley's here because everything still worked. That's my grandbaby about to come on December the 17th. That's John Jr.'s daughter. And let's see, we talked about this, about our mindset to atmosphere. We talked about this slide here of this individual, this fear to freedom. And I leave you with the next time that you go to board an aircraft and you go to reach for the overhead bin. Just be careful, because you never know what life's overhead bin has in store for you. My name is John Register, saying go forth, inspire your world. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you so much. God bless.